The alarm bells screamed through the corridors of the USS Horizon as Captain Jake Morrison stared at the massive shape on his view screen. The alien ship was unlike anything humanity had ever seen before. It stretched for miles across the black space, its dark metal hull covered in sharp spikes and glowing red marks that looked like ancient war paint. "How big is that thing?" Jake asked his crew, his voice steady despite the fear growing in his chest. "Sir, it's 3 times the size of our largest battleship," replied Lieutenant Amy Foster from her station. Her hands shook as she read the numbers on her screen. "And it's getting closer." Dr. Emma Blake stood at the back of the bridge, watching the alien vessel with wide eyes. As the ship's scientist who studied alien life, she had dreamed of this moment for years, first contact with a new species. But she had never imagined it would be this frightening. "Captain, we're receiving a signal," called out Communications Officer Dan Miller. "It's not like anything in our databases, but the computer is trying to translate it." The bridge fell silent as static filled the air. Then slowly words began to form through the noise. The voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "Small ship, you enter Corathian space. You will surrender or be destroyed." Jake looked around at his crew. They were explorers, not soldiers. The USS Horizon carried only basic weapons for defense against pirates and asteroids. Whatever was on that massive ship could probably blow them apart without even trying. "Open a channel?" Jake ordered. He stood up straight and tried to look confident. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel USS Horizon. We come in peace. We're explorers from Earth, seeking peaceful contact with other species." The alien voice came back quickly, filled with what sounded like anger. "Humans, we know of your kind. Weak creatures who hide behind metal and fear true warriors. You will prepare to be boarded." Emma stepped forward. "Captain, maybe I should try talking to them. As a xenobiologist, I might be able to understand their culture better." Jake nodded. "Go ahead, Doctor." Emma moved to the communications station. "This is Dr. Emma Blake, a scientist. We're honored to meet the Corathian people. We've traveled far to learn about other species and share knowledge." There was a long pause. Then the alien voice spoke again, but this time it sounded curious. "You study other species, human?" "Yes," Emma replied. "I've spent my life learning about different forms of life. I would be fascinated to learn about your people and your culture. Interesting. You will be brought aboard our ship. If you resist, you will die." The communication ended with a harsh buzz. Jake turned to his security chief, Pete Collins, a nervous man who had been gripping his weapon since the alien ship appeared. "Pete, set weapons to stun only. We don't want to start a war." Pete nodded, but his hands were shaking. "Yes, sir." "But, Captain, what if they try to hurt us?" "We follow protocol," Jake said firmly. "No one fires unless I give the order." Minutes later, the Horizon shook as something attached to their hull. The lights flickered and everyone could hear the sound of cutting tools working on the outer door. "They're coming through the main airlock," Amy reported. "Whatever tools they're using, they're going through our strongest metal like it's paper." Emma felt her heart racing, but she forced herself to stay calm. This was the moment she had trained for her entire life. She thought about all the books she had read about alien psychology and communication. The key was to show respect while not appearing weak. The airlock doors burst open with a shower of sparks. What came through made everyone on the bridge gasp in fear. The alien warriors were giants. They stood nearly 12 feet tall, their bodies covered in natural armor that looked like a cross between metal and insect shells. They had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle and ending in clawed hands that could probably crush a human skull. Their faces were hidden behind masks that glowed with the same red light as their ship. The largest of the aliens stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice was like thunder. "I am Vexthal, war leader of the Corathian Third Fleet. Which of you commands this vessel?" Jake stepped forward, trying not to show how small he felt next to the giant alien. "I am Captain Jake Morrison. I command this ship." Vexthal looked down at Jake like a human might look at a small insect. "You are weak, human captain. Your ship is weak. Your weapons are weak." Why should the mighty Korathian Empire waste time speaking with creatures such as you? Emma could see that Jake was struggling to find an answer. The captain was a good man, but he had never faced anything like this. She decided to act. Because we're not weak, Emma said, stepping forward. We're different. All the aliens turned to look at her. She could feel their eyes studying her through their masks, but she didn't. Back down, Vexthal tilted his massive head. You are smaller than even your captain, human female. What makes you think you are not weak? Emma met his gaze directly. Strength isn't just about size or weapons. We humans have survived on a dangerous planet for thousands of years. We've built cities, explored space, and learned to work together. We faced diseases, natural disasters, and wars, and we're still here. That takes a different kind of strength. The alien warrior was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been laughter. Interesting words, small human, but words are easy. Anyone can speak of strength. You're right, Emma agreed. But I'm not just speaking. I'm here, aren't I? I'm talking to you instead of hiding. My people sent me across the galaxy to find other species, even though we knew it might be dangerous. That's not the action of a weak species. Pete Collins, who had been getting more nervous by the minute, suddenly raised his weapon. Stay back, he shouted. Don't threaten our people. Pete, no, Jake yelled, but it was too late. The security. Chief's finger tightened on the trigger, and a bright blue stun beam shot out toward the aliens. It hit Vexthal square in the chest, but the giant warrior didn't even flinch. The energy blast just scattered off his natural armor like water off a rock. The bridge fell completely silent. Emma could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. Vexthal's voice, when it came, was deadly quiet. You fire upon a Korathian war leader. This is an act of war. It was an accident, Jake said quickly. My officer was scared. The weapon was set to stun, not kill. We meant no harm. Harm? Vexthal stepped closer, and Emma could see the red glow behind his mask growing brighter. You think your tiny weapons could harm me? You insult me further. The other Korathian warriors moved forward, and Emma could see that they were about to attack. In seconds, everyone on the bridge would be dead. Wait, Emma said, stepping between the aliens and her crewmates. You're right. That was insulting. But it wasn't meant to be. My people don't understand your strength yet. We're still learning. Vexthal stopped. You would stand between your people and death, small human? Yes, Emma replied without hesitation. And I would ask you to teach us about your strength instead of simply showing us. The alien warrior stared at her for what felt like hours. Finally he spoke. You are either very brave or very foolish, human scientist, perhaps both. You and your crew will come aboard my ship. There we will see what kind of strength you truly possess. As the Korathian warriors surrounded them, Emma caught Jake's eye. The captain looked terrified, but he nodded at her with respect. She had bought them time and maybe a chance to survive, but as they were led toward the alien ship, Emma wondered if her curiosity about other species was about to get them all killed. The giant warrior walking beside her was like nothing she had ever studied. Yet something in his voice when he spoke to her suggested that maybe, just maybe, there was more to the Korathians than just their fearsome reputation. The real test was just beginning. The inside of the Korathian ship was like walking through a giant's fortress. The corridors were wide enough for 3 of the massive aliens to walk side by side, and the ceiling stretched high above Emma's head. Red lights cast strange shadows on the dark metal walls, and the air smelled of hot metal and something else she couldn't identify. Emma walked between 2 Korathian guards, their heavy footsteps echoing through the hallways. Behind her, she could hear Jake and the other crew members talking in worried whispers. Pete Collins was especially quiet, probably still shocked that his weapon had done nothing to the alien warriors. Where are you taking us? Jake asked one of the guards. The alien didn't answer. Emma noticed that these guards were smaller than Vexthal, but they were still twice her size. She wondered if Vexthal was especially large. Even for his own people, they passed through several more corridors before reaching a massive circular room. The ceiling curved high above them like the inside of a dome, and the walls were covered in what looked like battle flags and weapons. In the center of the room sat a group of Korathian warriors around a table made of black stone. Vexthel stood as they entered. Without his mask, Emma could see his face clearly for the first time. His skin was dark gray and covered in small scales. His eyes were bright yellow, and when he opened his mouth to speak, she could see rows of sharp teeth. "Humans," he said, his voice filling the room. "You stand before the War Council of the Third Fleet. You have entered our space without permission. You have fired weapons at a Korathian war leader. By our laws, you should all be killed." Emma felt her stomach drop, but she forced herself to stay calm. "We understand we've made mistakes. We're new to this part of space. We don't know your customs yet." An older Korathian warrior at the table made a harsh sound. "Ignorance is no excuse, soft skin. The strong learn quickly or die." "War leader Grath speaks truth," Vexthel said, nodding to the older warrior. "In Korathian space, only the strong survive. The weak are consumed by the void." Emma stepped forward. "May I ask what you mean by consumed by the void?" Several of the warriors looked surprised that she had asked a question. Vexthel tilted his head, studying her with those bright yellow eyes. "You wish to know of our enemies, human scientist?" "I wish to understand your people," Emma replied. "Understanding begins with learning about what shapes a culture. What threatens you shapes who you are." The warriors exchanged glances. Finally, Vexthel spoke. "The Void Swarm, ancient enemy of all life, they come from the dark spaces between stars, consuming everything in their path. They have hunted the Korathian people for 1,000 generations." Emma's scientific mind immediately began asking questions. "Are they biological, mechanical? How do they reproduce?" "They are death itself," growled War Leader Grath. "They learn from every battle, adapt to every weapon. They cannot be reasoned with or bargained with. Only strength can hold them back." "And that's why you've become warriors," Emma said, understanding beginning to dawn. "Your entire culture developed around the need to fight this threat." Vexthel's eyes narrowed. "You understand quickly, human?" "Yes, we are warriors because we must be. The soft and weak among us died long ago. Only the strong remain. But strength has many forms," Emma said. "Physical strength? Yes, but also mental strength. The ability to adapt, to learn, to work together. These are also forms of strength." "Pretty words," scoffed another warrior. "But words cannot stop swarm ships or tear apart void creatures." Emma looked around the room at the assembled warriors. "You're right. Words alone can't fight battles. But understanding can help you fight smarter. Has anyone ever studied the swarm? Learned their patterns?" "We study them by killing them," Vexthel said simply. "Every warrior learns their weaknesses through combat." "Individual combat, yes," Emma agreed. "But what about their behavior as a group? Their technology, their biology? Sometimes the key to defeating an enemy isn't just hitting them harder, but understanding how they think." The room fell silent. Emma could feel the weight of all those alien eyes studying her. She had pushed too far, asked too many questions. These were proud warrior people, and she was criticizing their methods. Then Vexthel spoke, his voice thoughtful. "You speak of understanding enemies. Tell me, human scientist, what enemies has your species faced?" Emma thought carefully before answering. "We faced many enemies. Disease, hunger, natural disasters, wars between our own people. But our greatest enemy has always been ignorance. Fear of the unknown. And how did you defeat this enemy?" "By learning, by asking questions. By working together and sharing knowledge. Sometimes the answer to a problem comes from someone who sees it differently." War Leader Grath slammed his fist on the table. "Enough talk. These humans are weak. They hide behind their machines and speak of understanding instead of fighting. They are not worthy of our time." "Perhaps," Vexthel said slowly. "But they traveled here from distant stars. They built ships that can cross the void. They speak of cooperation and shared knowledge. These are not the actions of a weak species. They are the actions of cowards who fear honest battle," Grath replied. Emma felt anger rising in her chest. We're not cowards. We've survived on a dangerous planet for thousands of years. We've fought wars, explored deadly places, and refused to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. We just choose to use our minds as well as our strength. Big words from a small creature, Grath sneered. Would you back those words with action? Grath, Vexthal said, his voice carrying a warning. No, war leader, let the human prove her courage. If she speaks truth about human strength, let her face the trial of courage. The room went completely silent. Emma could hear Jake's sharp intake of breath behind her. Whatever this trial was, it clearly frightened her captain. The trial of courage has never been attempted by a non-Korathian, Vexthal said carefully. Most of our own young warriors fail to complete it. What does the trial involve? Emma asked. 3 tests, Vexthal explained. The first tests the body's endurance. The second tests the mind's strength. The third tests the wisdom of the warrior. Spirit, many who attempt it do not survive. Emma's mouth went dry. She looked back at her crew. Jake was shaking his head, silently begging her not to volunteer. Pete Collins looked like he might faint. The other crew members were staring at her with wide, frightened eyes. If I attempt this trial, Emma said slowly, and if I succeed, what happens to my crew? They would be free to return to their ship, Vexthal said. And humanity would be granted safe passage through Korathian space. And if I fail? Then you die, and your crew becomes prisoners of war. Emma closed her eyes and thought about her options. They were already prisoners. The Korathians could kill them all right now if they wanted to. But this trial offered a chance, however small, to save her friends and open peaceful relations between their species. I accept the trial of courage, she said. The room erupted in surprised voices. Several warriors seemed impressed, while others appeared angry. War leader Grath looked satisfied, as if he had expected this outcome. Emma, no, Jake called out. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do, Emma replied, not taking her eyes off. Vexthal, this is why we came out here. To make contact with other species, to learn and grow. Sometimes that means taking risks. Vexthal studied her for a long moment. You would risk your life for your crew? I would risk my life for the chance to prove that humans and Korathians can be allies instead of enemies. The giant warrior's expression was unreadable. Very well, human scientist. You will face the trial of courage. But know this, I have seen many brave warriors die in these tests. Your courage may not be enough. Maybe not, Emma agreed. But it's what I have to offer. As the warriors began making preparations for the trial, Emma felt a mixture of terror and excitement. She was about to face challenges designed for alien warriors twice her size. But she was also about to learn more about the Korathians than any human had ever known. Vexthal approached her as the other warriors dispersed. Why do you do this, human? Your crew means so much to you? Emma looked up at the towering alien. They're my friends, my family. And beyond that, this is bigger than just us. If humans and Korathians can find common ground, maybe we can help each other against the threats we both face. The Void Swarm cares nothing for friendship or understanding, Vexthal said quietly. No, Emma agreed. But 2 species working together are stronger than either one alone. That's something worth fighting for. The war leader was quiet for a moment, then he nodded slowly. Perhaps. We will see if your human courage is real or just more words. As Emma was led away to prepare for the trial, she caught one last glimpse of Jake and her crew. They looked terrified but also proud. She had bought them a chance at life, and maybe she had bought humanity a chance at something more. The real test was about to begin. Emma stood in a small room that the Korathians had given her to prepare for the trial. The walls were bare metal, and the only furniture was a simple bench. She had been given water and some kind of alien food that tasted like bitter meat, but her stomach was too nervous to eat much. A soft knock came at the door. Come in, she called. Vexthal entered, having to duck his massive frame through the doorway. In his 4 hands, he carried what looked like pieces of armor. The trial begins. In 1 hour, he said, setting the armor down on the bench. You will need protection for the first test. Emma picked up one of the pieces. It was much lighter than she expected, but still felt incredibly strong. This is Korathian armor? Made for your size, Vexthel replied. My warriors worked quickly to craft it. It will not save you from everything, but it may keep you alive long enough to complete the first trial. Why are you helping me? Emma asked, looking up at the giant warrior. Your people think I'm weak. Vexthel was quiet for a moment. Most do, yes. But I have fought many battles, seen many different kinds of courage. Your willingness to face death for your crew thus is not weakness. Emma began putting on the armor pieces. They fit surprisingly well, though she still felt tiny compared to the massive Korathian warriors. Can you tell me what to expect in the trials? The first test is the arena of endurance. You must survive for one full rotation of our planet's cycle. That is about 6 of your Earth hours. The arena will test your body's ability to withstand pain, exhaustion, and fear. What's in the arena? Automated defense systems. Weapons that will try to wound you. Obstacles that will test your strength and speed. The goal is not to win, but to survive. Emma felt her heart racing. And the second test? The mind trial. You will face visions created by Korathian psychic technology. The visions will show you your deepest fears, your greatest failures. Many warriors break under this pressure and must be removed before their minds shatter completely. What happens if my mind breaks? Then you die or live as an empty shell, but if you survive, you face the final test. The wisdom trial. This has puzzled our greatest war leaders for generations. No one has solved it in living memory. Emma finished putting on the armor. It felt strange but secure. What is the wisdom trial? A tactical scenario. An impossible battle situation that has no clear victory. Every solution our warriors have, TRIED, has failed. Perhaps your human mind will see something we cannot. And if I fail any of these trials, then your crew becomes prisoners and you die with honor. But if you succeed in all three... Deposed Vexthel paused. No outsider has ever succeeded in all 3 trials. I do not know what would happen. Emma stood and tested the armor's movement. It was flexible enough to let her move freely. I have to try. Yes, Vexthel agreed. You do. There is something else. Human Emma, during the trials you will be alone. I cannot help you or advise you. You must find your own strength. I understand. The giant warrior turned to leave, then stopped. Your crew asked me to give you this. He handed her a small device. They said it contains messages from your friends. Emma took the device and activated it. Jake's face appeared on the tiny screen. Emma, we believe in you. Whatever happens, know that you're the bravest person I've ever known. Pete Collins appeared next, looking ashamed. Doc, I'm sorry. My stupid mistake got us into this mess. You don't have to do this for me. Yes, I do, Emma said quietly to the recording. We're a team. The last message was from Amy Foster. Emma, you've always been the smartest person on the ship. Trust your instincts. We're all rooting for you. Emma smiled despite her fear. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for her friends, her species, and maybe even for peace between humans and Korathians. It is time, Vexthel said. The arena of endurance was a massive circular room with walls that stretched up beyond sight. The floor was covered in different surfaces, some smooth, some rough, some that looked like they might be dangerous to touch. In the center stood a platform where Emma was supposed to start. Hundreds of Korathian warriors filled seats around the arena's edge. Their voices created a low rumble as they discussed the small human who dared to attempt their sacred trial. Warriors of the Third Fleet, Vexthel's voice boomed across the arena. Today we witness something never before seen. A human attempts the trial of courage. Let us see if this small creature possesses true warrior spirit. Emma climbed onto the central platform. The armor felt heavier now, and her mouth was dry with fear. But she thought about her crew, about the chance for peace, and about all the times humans had faced impossible odds and somehow found a way to survive. Begin, Vexthel shouted. Immediately the arena came alive. Panels in the walls opened and metal projectiles began flying toward Emma. She dove off the platform just as several sharp spikes embedded themselves where she had been standing. The projectiles kept coming from different directions. Emma rolled behind a large metal barrier and tried to catch her breath. She could hear the Korathians in the stands making sounds that might have been laughter or approval. A new threat emerged from the floor. Metal arms with crushing grips rose up and began swinging toward her. Emma ran, dodging between the mechanical arms while more projectiles flew through the air. The first hour was exhausting. Emma's human body wasn't built for this kind of punishment. Her legs ached, her lungs burned, and the armor was starting to feel impossibly heavy. But she kept moving, kept thinking, kept adapting. She began to notice patterns in the attacks. The projectiles came in waves with brief pauses between them. The mechanical arms moved in predictable sweeps. The arena wasn't just testing her strength. It was testing her ability to learn and adapt. The third hour. Emma had figured out a route that let her avoid most of the attacks. She was still getting hit occasionally, and her body was covered in small cuts and bruises, but she was surviving. The Korathians in the stands had grown quieter. They seemed surprised that the small human was still alive. During the fourth hour, the arena increased its difficulty. New obstacles appeared, walls of fire that she had to jump over, floors that became slippery with oil, and spinning blades that forced her to time her movements perfectly. Emma's legs nearly gave out twice, but she forced herself to keep going. She thought about her crew, about the possibility of peace, about all the humans throughout history who had refused to give up when things seemed hopeless. By the sixth hour, Emma was barely standing. Her armor was dented and scratched, her body ached everywhere, and she could hardly catch her breath, but she was still alive. "Time!" Vexthel called out. The arena's defenses shut down. Emma collapsed to her knees, gasping for air. The Korathians in the stands were making a sound she had never heard before, a low, rhythmic chant that seemed to show respect. Vexthel climbed down into the arena and approached Emma. "You have survived the arena of endurance. No human has ever done this before. How did I do compared to Korathian warriors?" Emma managed to ask between gasps. "Most of our young warriors are carried out unconscious," Vexthel replied. "You walked out on your own feet. This is impressive." Emma smiled weakly. "One down, 2 to go." "Yes, but the next trial is more dangerous. The mind trial breaks many. Warriors who are physically strong. Are you ready?" Emma looked around the arena at the hundreds of Korathian warriors watching her. For the first time since she had been captured, she saw something other than contempt in their eyes. She saw curiosity, and maybe even a little respect. "I'm ready," she said. The mind trial took place in a smaller room filled with strange glowing crystals. Emma lay on a platform in the center while Korathian technicians attached devices to her head. "The crystals will read your mind and create visions," Vexthel explained. "They will show you your fears, your failures, your regrets." Many warriors see visions of battles they lost, comrades they failed to save, or enemies they could not defeat. The goal is to face these visions without breaking. What happens if I break? Your mind retreats into itself to escape the pain. Your body lives, but your spirit dies. You become an empty shell. Emma closed her eyes as the devices activated. At first she felt nothing. Then the visions began. She saw herself as a child, being teased by classmates for being too curious, too different. She saw her first days in space, when she had been terrified of the vastness and emptiness around her. She saw every mistake she had ever made, every person she had disappointed, every moment when she had felt small and helpless. But then something strange happened. Instead of breaking under the weight of these memories, Emma began to examine them. Like a scientist, she saw that her curiosity, the thing that had made her different, was also what had made her strong. She saw that her fear of the unknown had pushed her to learn more, to understand better. The visions grew stronger, showing her the faces of her crew members dying because of her failure. But Emma held on to the truth. They were still alive, and she was fighting to keep them that way. Your fears do not control you, she whispered to herself. You control your response to them. The visions faded. Emma opened her eyes to find Vexthel staring at her with amazement. How do you feel? He asked as Emma sat up slowly. Tired, but clear, like I understand myself better now. Most warriors who survive the mind trial emerge angry or broken. You emerge peaceful. The news of Emma's success in the trial of courage spread through the Korathian fleet like wildfire. Warriors who had never shown respect to any non-Korathian now spoke her name with something close to admiration. But not everyone was pleased. With this turn of events, Emma sat in a comfortable room that Vexthel had given her, much nicer than the cell where she had waited before the trials. Her crew had been moved to better quarters as well, and she could hear them talking and laughing through the walls. For the first time since their capture, they sounded relaxed. A heavy knock came at her door. Come in, Emma called. Vexthel entered, but his usual confident manner seemed troubled. Emma, we need to talk. There is a problem. What kind of problem? War. Chief Gextar has returned from a raid on the Outer Rim. He is not pleased that I allowed a human to attempt our sacred trials. He demands to meet with you. Emma felt her stomach tighten. Is he going to challenge the results? Worse, wants to challenge you to personal combat. He says that completing the trials was just luck, and that you must prove your worth in real battle. Can he do that? Vexthel's expression was grim. By our laws, any warrior can challenge another to single combat if they believe honor has been insulted. Gextar claims that allowing a human to complete our trials insults all Korathian warriors. Emma stood and began pacing the small room. What happens if I refuse the challenge? Then you and your crew are declared cowards and enemies of the Korathian people? You would be executed? And if I accept? Then you face Gextar in armed combat. He is one of our finest warriors, Emma. He has never lost a battle. He is larger than me, stronger than me, and has been fighting for twice as long as I have lived. Emma stopped pacing and looked at Vexthel. There's something else, isn't there? Something you're not telling me. The giant warrior was quiet for a moment. Gextar believes that I have grown weak by speaking with you. He thinks that contact with humans has made me soft. If you lose to him, he will challenge my leadership of this fleet. So this isn't just about me. It's about you too, yes, and it is about something larger. Gextar represents the old ways of thinking. He believes that Korathians should never work with other species, that we should conquer or destroy all who are not like us. Emma sat down heavily on the bed. While you think that maybe cooperation could help your people, I have been thinking about what you said, about different kinds of strength, about using minds as well as weapons. The Void Swarm grows stronger every year. Our traditional methods of fighting them are becoming less effective. So you want to try new approaches? Yes, but Gextar and his followers believe this is weakness. They would rather die fighting in the old ways than live by trying? New ones, Emma looked at her hands. They were still bandaged from the trials, small and soft compared to the massive clawed hands of the Korathians. I can't beat him in a fair fight. No, Vexthel agreed, you cannot. But perhaps you do not need to beat him. Perhaps you need to do something else. What do you mean? I have been watching you, Emma. You do not think like a Korathian warrior. You think like a scientist. You look for solutions that others cannot see. Maybe there is a way to face Gextar without fighting him directly. Before Emma could respond, the door burst open. 3 massive Korathian warriors entered, led by one who was even larger than Vexthel. His armor was covered in battle scars and his eyes burned with anger. So this is the human who thinks she can match Korathian strength. The largest warrior said, his voice like grinding stone. I am War Chief Gextar. I have come to correct this insult to our people. Vexthel stepped forward. Gextar, this human has completed the trial of courage. By our laws, she has earned respect. Your laws, Gextar snarled. You forget yourself. Vexthel. The laws say that any warrior can challenge another who they believe has acted without honor. This human has made a mockery of our sacred trials. Emma stood up. I completed every test fairly. I survived the arena of endurance, passed the mind trial, and solved the wisdom trial. What part of that was a mockery? Gextar looked down at her with contempt. The trials were designed for Korathian warriors, not weak aliens. The fact that you survived them proves only that they are too easy. Then why hasn't anyone solved the wisdom trial in 500 years? Because no true warrior would choose to run from battle as you did. Your solution was the thinking of a coward. Emma felt anger rising in her chest. My solution saved lives. Both military and civilian. How's that cowardice? Because a warrior's duty is to fight and die with honor, not to flee like a frightened animal. And that's exactly why your people have been losing ground to the Void Swarm for generations, Emma shot back. You'd rather die gloriously than live intelligently? The room fell silent. Gextar's eyes blazed with fury. You dare insult Korathian honor? I dare tell the truth. Your honor code is getting your people killed. Gextar raised one of his massive fists. Then you will die defending your words. I challenge you to single combat, human. Tomorrow, at the rising of our sun, you will face me in the arena. We will see whose way is stronger. Emma looked at Vexthal, who nodded gravely. There was no way out of this. I accept your challenge. Good. Prepare yourself, small one. Tomorrow you learn what real Korathian strength looks like. Gextar and his warriors left. Emma sat down again, her hands shaking. Emma, Vexthal said gently, there may be another way. What do you mean? The challenge laws are old and complex. They say that the challenged party may choose the type of combat. Most warriors choose hand-to-hand fighting or weapons combat, but you could choose something else. Like what? A contest of leadership, a battle of strategies, a test of wisdom. As long as it can be called combat, it is acceptable. Emma's mind began racing. What if I chose a different kind of challenge? Something that would prove my point about cooperation being stronger than individual strength? What do you have in mind? Emma stood up and began pacing again. What if I challenged him to solve a real problem instead of just fighting? Something that would show the difference between the old ways and new ways of thinking? That is ... possible, but it would have to be something that Gextar could not refuse without looking weak. What if we made it about the Void Swarm? A real tactical scenario that your people are actually facing? Vexthal's eyes lit up. There is a situation. A Korathian colony world on the edge of our space. Long-range scouts report that a Void Swarm fleet is moving toward it. We have been debating how to defend the colony. Perfect. I challenge Gextar to a contest of strategy. We each present a plan for defending the colony. The War Council judges which plan is better, and if your plan wins, then the Korathians try working with humans to fight the Void Swarm. If his plan wins, my crew and I leave Korathian space and never return. Vexthal thought for a moment. Gextar will not like this. He wants to prove his physical superiority over you, but he can't refuse without looking like he's afraid of a fair contest of minds. And it gives him a chance to prove that the old ways are better. It also gives you a chance to prove that cooperation can work. But Emma, if you lose this contest, you lose everything. My people will reject any alliance with humans. Emma nodded. I understand the stakes. But this is bigger than just me or my crew now. This is about whether our species can work together to face a common threat. Later that evening, Emma sat with her crew in their quarters. She had explained the situation to them, and they were trying to be supportive despite their fear. Doc, are you sure about this? Jake asked. Maybe we should just take our chances with the original challenge. No, Emma said firmly. This is the right choice. If I fight Gextar with weapons, I'll lose and die. But if I can beat him in a contest of strategy, I might be able to convince the Korathians that humans have something valuable to offer. What? If your plan doesn't work? Pete asked. What if the Korathians reject it? Then at least I'll have tried. And maybe, even if I lose, I'll plant some seeds of doubt about whether the old ways are really the best ways. Amy looked worried. Emma, you're betting everything on being able to outthink a warrior who's been fighting for decades. No, Emma replied. I'm betting on being able to think differently. Gexstar has experience and strength, but I have a different perspective. Sometimes that's enough. The next morning, Emma stood before the full Korathian War Council. Word of the challenge had spread throughout the fleet, and hundreds of warriors filled the chamber to watch. Gexstar stood across from her, his massive form radiating confidence. So, human, you choose to face me in a contest of strategy, rather than honest combat? I choose to face you in a contest that will actually help your people, Emma replied. Fighting you with weapons would prove nothing except that you're bigger and stronger than me. Everyone already knows that. And you think your weak human mind can outthink a Korathian war chief? I think my human mind can see solutions that you can't. Different doesn't mean weaker. Vexthal stepped forward. The challenge is accepted. Both contestants will present their plans for defending the colony world of Korath, prime from the approaching Void Swarm fleet. The War Council will judge which plan offers the best chance of success. As the contest began, Emma felt the weight of hundreds of alien eyes watching her. The Great Hall of the Korathian flagship had been transformed into a strategic planning center. Massive displays showed the colony world of Korath Prime, its orbital defenses, and the approaching Void Swarm fleet. The numbers were frightening. 3 swarm hive ships, each one larger than the entire Korathian defense fleet. Emma stood at one display table while Gexstar worked at another. Between them, the War Council sat in judgment, their yellow eyes watching every move. Vexthal stood with the other council members, but Emma could see the worry in his expression. You have 2 hours to present your plans, announced War Leader. Grath, the colony has 40,000 civilians and a defense fleet of 12 ships. The Void Swarm approaches with overwhelming force. How do you save Korath Prime? Gexstar immediately began working on his plan. Emma could see him placing ship markers in aggressive formations, planning direct attacks on the swarm vessels. It was exactly what she expected, a brave, honorable battle plan that would probably result in the destruction of everyone involved. Emma took a different approach. She studied the colony's location, its resources, and the path the swarm fleet was taking. She looked at things the Korathians might have overlooked: civilian transport capacity, mining equipment, even the planet's natural features. After an hour of work, Emma had an idea. It was risky and would require perfect timing, but it might actually work. She spent the remaining time refining the details and preparing her presentation. Time, War Leader Grath announced. Gexstar, present your plan first. The massive war. Chief stepped forward with confidence. The solution is simple and honorable. We take our entire defense fleet and attack the swarm vessels directly. We focus all our firepower on their lead ship, hoping to destroy it before they can fully deploy their forces. And the civilians? Asked one of the council members. They will evacuate while we hold the enemy. Those who survive will find new homes. Those who die will die with honor, knowing that warriors fought for them. Several council members nodded approvingly. It was a traditional Korathian plan, brave, direct, and likely to end in glorious death. Emma, Vexthal said. Present. Your plan, Emma stepped forward, her heart racing. My plan is based on a simple principle. We don't fight the Void Swarm, we trick them. Angry murmurs rose from the watching warriors. Fighting without honor was almost unthinkable to them. Explain, War Leader Grath said coldly. The Void Swarm is attracted to large concentrations of life and energy. That's why they're heading for the colony. But what if we gave them a bigger target? Emma activated the display. We evacuate the entire colony, all 40,000 people. But we don't just run away. We use the planet's mining equipment to create a fake energy signature that makes it look like the colony is still there, but with 10 times as many people. And then? Gexstar asked mockingly. Then we hide the real population in the asteroid belt around the system's outer planets. Meanwhile, we rig the colony to explode when the swarm lands. The explosion will destroy their ground forces and damage their ships. You want us to run and hide like cowards, Gexstar snarled. I want us to win, Emma replied. While the swarm is dealing with the explosion, the defense fleet attacks from the asteroid belt. The swarm will be confused, damaged, and caught off guard. We'll have the advantage for the first time. War Leader Grath looked thoughtful. What? If the swarm doesn't fall for the deception? Then we've still evacuated 40,000 civilians and lost nothing but an empty planet. We can always fall back to Gextar's plan if mine fails. And if they do fall for it, but the explosion isn't enough to stop them? Emma took a deep breath. Then we use the second part of the plan. We don't just attack with Korathian ships. We call for help from every species in the region. Humans, Korathians, and anyone else who wants to stop the Void Swarm, a united fleet. With different technologies and tactics. The hall erupted in angry voices. Many warriors were shouting about honor and traditional ways. But Emma noticed that some of the older council members were looking interested. Silence, Vexful commanded. Let her finish. The Void Swarm adapts to whatever fights them, Emma continued. But they adapt slowly. If we hit them with tactics and weapons they've never seen before, from multiple species working together, they won't be able to adapt fast enough. You ask us to trust our lives to aliens we've never met, Gextar said. I ask you to trust in the power of cooperation. The Void Swarm has been winning because they fight each species separately. What if all the species fought together? The War Council deliberated for what felt like hours. Emma could hear heated arguments in the Korathian language, but she couldn't understand the words. Finally, War Leader Grath called for order. The Council has reached a decision. Gextar's plan follows honored tradition and would bring glory to Korathian warriors. But Emma's plan offers a better chance of actually saving the colony and defeating the enemy. Emma felt a wave of relief, but it was short-lived. However, Grath continued, we will not simply accept the word of a human. Emma, you will accompany our fleet to Korath Prime. If your plan succeeds, humans and Korathians will become allies. If it fails, you will die in the battle alongside our warriors. And if she refuses? Gextar asked. Then her crew goes free. But humans are declared enemies of the Korathian Empire. Emma looked at her friends. Jake was shaking his head, silently begging her not to risk her life again. But Emma knew she had to do this. I accept, she said. The journey to Korath Prime took 3 days. During that time, Emma worked closely with Vexthal and the other fleet commanders to refine her plan. She was amazed at how quickly the Korathians adapted to new ideas once they decided to try them. Your plan is clever, Vexthal told her as they approached the colony. But are you certain that other species will come to help us? Human ships are already on their way, Emma replied. And I've sent messages to the Zentari, Trade Federation, and the Healers Guild. They've all had problems with the Void Swarm. And if they don't arrive in time, then we improvise. That's what humans do best. The evacuation of Korath Prime went smoothly. The colonists were nervous about leaving their homes, but they trusted their defenders. Emma watched as 40,000 people were loaded onto transport ships and hidden in the asteroid belt. Meanwhile, Korathian engineers worked with human technicians to set up the fake energy signatures and prepare the planet for demolition. It was the first time the two species had worked together, and despite some communication problems, they made a good team. 2 days later, the Void Swarm arrived. The alien vessels were unlike anything Emma had ever seen. They looked like giant insects made of metal and darkness, with weapons that pulsed with evil energy. As they approached the planet, Emma held her breath. They're taking the bait, Vexthal reported. All 3 hive ships are moving toward the colony. The swarm landed on the planet's surface, sending thousands of creatures to consume what they thought was a massive population. For a moment, Emma worried that they would realize the deception too quickly. Then the planet exploded. The explosion was so bright that it lit up the entire system. 2 of the swarm hive ships were caught in the blast and heavily damaged. The 3rd ship was thrown off course and tumbling through space. All ships, attack now. Vexthal commanded. The Korathian fleet emerged from the asteroid belt, their weapons blazing. But they weren't alone. Human ships appeared from another direction. their missiles and energy weapons adding to the assault. A moment later, Centauri vessels joined the battle, their advanced shields protecting the smaller ships. The Void Swarm had never faced such a coordinated attack. Their damaged ships tried to adapt, but the combined fleet was using too many different tactics for them to counter effectively. Emma watched from the bridge of Vexel's flagship as the battle raged. Human creativity, Korathian strength, and Centauri technology worked together in perfect harmony. The swarm ships, for the first time in centuries, were losing. "It's working," Vexel said, amazement in his voice. "Your plan is actually working." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, all 3 swarm hive ships had been destroyed, and the remaining swarm creatures were fleeing the system. The colony was saved, and more importantly, the Void Swarm had suffered their first major defeat in generations on the bridge of the Korathian flagship. Emma stood beside Vexel as they watched the celebration. Ships from 3 different species were working together to rescue survivors and repair damage. "This is just the beginning," Vexel said. "The swarm will return with more ships, new tactics, and we'll be ready for them," Emma replied. "All of us working together." Gextar approached them. The war chief looked different now, less angry, more thoughtful. "Human Emma," he said formally, "I was wrong about your strength. You have shown us a new way to fight, a new way to win." "We've shown each other," Emma corrected. "Humans couldn't have won this battle alone, neither could Korathians. But together we're stronger than either species alone." "I understand now," Gextar said. "True strength comes in many forms. Your courage in facing our trials, your wisdom in seeing solutions we could not see, your willingness to risk everything for others, these are all forms of warrior strength." 3 months later, Emma stood in the same great hall where she had first met the Korathian War Council.